do good ideas come from? What kind of environment best generates novel ideas? Ideas that become visions, and visions that become reality? Here in northwestern Ontario, this happened. At the outset, the reality was focused on one individual, Cliff McIntosh. By working with others who shared his vision, he was able to create a learning environment that worked in harmony with nature and developed leadership with others wishing to bring about positive change. Change that would greatly influence the world in which we are going to live. This philosophy was reflected in all the programs that the Centre offered. In the 50 years that it was in operation, the Centre proved to be an agent for constructive change. This will be an opportunity to have a look at some of those programs, and to meet the founder, Cliff McIntosh.
After I was finished with my life on, when I look back at my death's door, that I wanted to be able to look back and see that I had done some things that were different and unusual, and that I'd done some useful things, and things that I got a great deal of satisfaction from, that were good for me. And I also wanted to work with people whom I liked, and who I felt liked me and respected me. And Quetico Centre seemed to be that kind of idea, that people who would be attracted by this idea would be really interesting people to work with.
This is a former Department of Lands and Forest Ranger base. And in the mid-50s, it was decided to move the ranger base to another location. This base was used to supervise the Quetico Provincial Park, and the park boundaries were redefined, and so this meant that this place was then surplus to the Department of Lands and Forests needs. They then wanted to dispose of it. They wanted it to be used for some public facility. What it had on the site at the time were some buildings, a beautiful lakefront, and that was about all. And a number of us heard about this and organized what was called the Eagle Lake Planning Committee. And this was just a group of people who were interested in the idea of developing a residential facility in northwestern Ontario, which would make it possible for people to come together, learn what they needed to know in order to enrich their community life, with an emphasis on leisure time activity, the arts, and recreational interests. And what we attempted to do was to get together people who would be interested in the idea, who represented an important part of the power structure of northwestern Ontario, and who had access to resources that the development of the idea would need as it matured.
Cliff was involved in the creation of the Centre from the beginning. As much as he was able to visualize what the place would become, he was also very aware of the importance of establishing and maintaining financial stability. The result? Programs were started that could fill important gaps in adult education, leadership learning, and constructive change in northwestern Ontario, and at the same time provides facility income year-round. The inclusion of members of the community who could assist in the development and operation of those programs proved invaluable.
A number of things that happened that sort of demonstrate what happens when people get involved in developing an idea. When the Centre first began, there was an old bush road about 4 or 5 miles long, and it was just impossible to do much with it. It was used for timber operations before, and so we just had to get a better road, and we decided that we would see if we could get the support of the Northwest Ontario Associated Chambers of Commerce. We approached their annual meeting, and one of our board members, Nat Scott, made a presentation. They agreed to support the road. And then at their annual meeting with the provincial cabinet, Scott again made the presentation on behalf of the Centre getting support for this road. And Leslie Frost solved the problem with 2 words. And he turned to the highways minister at the time and said, "Build it." And the road was built. You can see that requires a great number of people to be involved in supporting that idea before it would work.
From the start, the arts were always considered vital as an avenue for personal development and community building. At that time, Quetico Centre was the only place in northwestern Ontario to bring people from the region together with skilled artists and craftspersons for learning that they could take back to their communities. When their recreation centre was built, craft studios were included to encourage painting, pottery, tapestry, music, and even dance. The value of a residential learning center was that these pursuits could be enjoyed in leisure hours at any time. At Quetico, the recreational and learning opportunities allowed everyone to continue with reflection and shared into the evenings. When plans were afoot to begin the development of the non-profit Quetico Centre in 1958, individuals from a vast array of businesses and community organizations were drawn into the planning by the enthusiasm and determination of those spearheading the proposal. Early on, the decision was made not to construct one big lodge, but to have separate buildings for learning, sleeping, and dining. This would require everyone to go outdoors and be submerged in the beauty and the uniqueness of the surrounding area. Until much later, the absence of televisions meant that people would engage with each other after their sessions, and outdoor activities would impact their thought processes. The heavy equipment operators training courses were the perfect examples of the way Quetico delivered their programs. Here we see the development and construction of a nearby airstrip. Students were still getting the training and experience in the large machines needed for the construction projects in northwestern Ontario. But the training was taking place within the framework of an actual project. What they were doing was motivating. There was purpose in moving a rock or a pile of dirt because it was part of an eventual runway and the operator could see the progress. In a similar manner, the course undertook other local projects, including building logging roads and digging basements. This was project-based learning years before project-based learning became the norm in so many professions. The building of sports facilities was viewed as an important component of the vision for an inviting learning facility. Throughout its history, the center included recreational areas that could be used year-round, including a beautiful swimming pool, gymnasium, training and fitness rooms, and later an outdoor tennis court. The lake and woods invited swimming and canoeing in the summer, and snowshoeing and cross-country skiing in the winter. Recreation was regarded as vital for personal physical and psychological well-being. Quetico Adventure was the center's response to the need for a summer camp program for young people. Campcraft and wood lore were taught through extended canoe trips. The focus was on developing leadership, growth in interpersonal skills, and constructive problem solving in the difficulties encountered along the way. It was not uncommon for the over 200 adventurers to enroll in successive 2-week courses. They selected many talented counselors, so the ratio of leaders to participants was always low, and the opportunities to increase personal growth were high. Quetico's teen leadership program attracted students from Manitoba and northwestern Ontario to learn skills that could be applied to responsibilities they had or were getting ready to tackle in their schools and home communities. They learned planning, leadership, and teamwork skills by practicing them on issues they would meet back home. Then they tested what they thought they had learned on a canoe trip that they had to plan and execute. They left the intensive 2-week course with skills to lead change back home. The program operated for many summers and was often praised for the difference it had made in so many lives. Focusing on research and education to promote change within organizations, Cliff and his colleagues envisioned work settings where employees not only built quality things, but did it in a way that created meaningful workplace settings. The managerial grid allowed companies to see a numerical plotting of concerns for getting the work done, getting the product made, or transferring the needed knowledge, compared to the concern for the people involved in the entire process. Because there are so many possible intersections using these two concerns, the challenge became one of pinpointing where a person was currently located in the grid, and then analyzing the possibilities of moving to another, more effective position. Week-long seminars were held at the center to create the needed pathways for that change in their organizations.
Tonight's activity is an open-ended one. The first paragraph focuses on the solution of a complex problem. This was more complex than the situation of last night. The second paragraph raises the issue that's evident in the production efficiency chart.
I suggest in the first place, we got a hell of a lot on the board. Yeah. The second one, we followed your pattern. Now we haven't got a word. Now, what do you want to do?
You know,
I'm
getting damn well annoyed. We've been sitting in here at damn meetings for how long? We put lots on the board, lots on the charts, but really, have we set what we really want to do in this team?
Define the program.
We're taking it piecemeal. We're solving what was the problems this afternoon. I think we should sit down, okay, if we want to be number one team, then we should put our objective is to be number one team. And then we go through what is stopping us from
The center was the preferred venue for management seminars. It allowed everyone to take a step away from the stresses and problems of home turf and view them from a distance. But sometimes that was not possible, and in those situations, Cliff and his team were able to travel to the site and work with key members to help them realize and formulate action plans for their company. In this case, the focus was on creating a plan for innovation so that the company and its products would continue to be relevant in the future.
Yeah, back up to a certain position. There was 10 line supervisors in the next 3 years. Now, what are we doing about it today?
Decentralized the budgeting.
Getting the right input from the right people in a timely manner.
Yeah, this was done before, but in an informal way.
Yeah.
Last year we were one. We were just off on time. We bottlenecked up and rushed too much. Concept of focus went down on the
Right.
yeah. Is the organization in insight today, as we know, a best organization to learn.
The Sisters of St. Joseph in Toronto were operating a large hospital, as well as facing challenges coping with changes affecting the healthcare system. After participating in a seminar at Quetico, the senior sisters realized that it would be important for everyone in their community to participate in their renewal and growth, and so the seminars were held at the Toronto office.
Measured task results, and if we hadn't provided the critique later, then the teams would have likely been largely focused in on getting higher and higher numbers. But then this focused on a whole other dimension, people side of the issue.
With Cliff's help, over time, a major effort successfully addressed the challenges the sisters were facing, and they were able to sing in perfect harmony. We join Cliff and several of the staff living at the center as they enjoy afternoon stretching and relaxing. Quetico Centre was a residential environment and a home community for the staff operating the courses. The lines between work time and personal time were blurred since programs often continued into the evening, so staff were able to eat and socialize with participants. The shared experience of living near each other and the deliberate learning activities created a powerful learning tool, namely the ability to communicate openly and freely.
Nourish it, make sure that it gets the best kind of sunlight and the conditions are right for growth. It really is important that the idea not be dismissed too early on, that one tries to find ways in which people who are interested in ideas, but also people who are prepared to work at an idea that they get excited about. That's the way an idea grows and takes on some substance.
The differences in skills, values, and outlooks became learning opportunities and helped not only with the personal growth of the staff, but also with collaboration in the design of programs.
Many people thought of Quetico Centre as being an impossible idea. When one thinks of locating a residential centre in the northwestern Ontario woods, I guess it does seem kind of silly. But it's the kind of idea that will call forth the best in people, their imagination, their creativity, and their effort. And if Quetico Centre is anything, it's probably a monument to ideas. And I hope it's a living monument, not a marble monument. And that the center can be an inspiration to other people who have ideas and are prepared to work at making those ideas reality. I guess the only ideas that are worth working at are those that are seen as being impossible, because if you work for the possible, by the time you achieve it, it's too late anyway. And the center, I think, will, if it stays alive and vibrant and healthy and subscribes to the idea of being a creative impulse, will be continually looking for new horizons, new directions to go each day, and as a consequence of that, will continue to call forth the best in people.